Hello, Richard at KC Auto. This is your brake booster that I fixed up for you, rebuilt for you. A couple things we're going to go over. You got a new vacuum diaphragm because your diaphragm was covered in brake fluid, and for some reason the factory did not make the vacuum parts resistant to brake fluid. So this was soaked in brake fluid and it lost its lip right here. Also, a tremendous amount of brake fluid had seeped out into this air filter assembly, and so the rubber parts in there were degraded. This is what this is the exchange unit, and that's what it's on your booster now. Excuse me. This is your check valve. These are not the parts for your check valve. This is your check valve that I rebuilt for you. Your brake light switch does not work. It takes a common brake light switch. It has a 10x1 pitch on it, and you can get that in any auto parts store, but this one does not work. This port right here on your booster is for testing, and this is something that you can use anytime that you want to test the booster. And you put your vacuum gauge in there, and excuse me, allergies are killing me. And this port right here goes to this gauge on the vacuum side, and what's going to happen in when the boosters turned on, the vacuum pump's turned on, the vacuum gauge, the vacuum pump is going to pull as much vacuum as it can as my pump is able to, and both gauges will read the same. And when the booster is activated, this gauge is going to go down to 0, and when the booster is fully activated, that gauge will read 0, and that gauge is what is pulling off of here, and that's what you can do to test the booster when it's in the car. And on the hydraulic side, we've got the input, which is these two gauges, which is a function of my master cylinder on the booster testing machine. And what happens here, these two gauges are tied together, and this gauge goes up and reads max pressure here, and this reads final input pressure, which again is just what my master cylinder can do. Output is what the booster is going to do. Again, the gauges are tied together. This gauge goes up, maxes out, and this gauge reads final output pressure. And your booster is like a 3.5, 3.7 to 1 boost ratio, so you're going to see a lot of pressure on this side. And what we'll do first is test it without any vacuum to show you that the booster, most people don't realize this, but when the booster is inert, when it has no vacuum going to it, it's inert. It just sits there, doesn't do anything, and the brake fluid goes in and comes out. So when people complain about mushy brakes or various braking problems, they want to go to the booster as the source of the trouble. Booster doesn't do anything. When there's no vacuum to it, it just sits there, doesn't do anything. And I'm going to show you that right now. As you can see, we got 350 in, 350 out, 350 out. The booster just sits there, doesn't do anything. Now we'll put vacuum to it. Use everything at one time. Okay, well, we've got pressure on it. We start checking for leaks. Leak points can be right here at this joint, at the bleed hole. Yep, your booster doesn't have a bleed hole. Interesting. Most of them have a bleed hole down at the base here. Also, we check our bleed screws, make sure there's no leakage. Check the brake light switch. Remember, this is a tapered thread, so all you gotta do is screw it in until you don't have any leaks right here. You don't screw it in all the way flat. And that's it. Doesn't get any better than this. This booster tests just perfect. It's a nice booster, Richard. I don't think there's anything else I need to mention. We use .3 brake fluid. That's all I can think of. Thank you for sending it.